private sales being oversubscribed. For example, the yield basis sale, which is another project by Michael Egorov, the Curve founder. To have that 200 times oversubscribed is quite a clear metric that there is demand to bid quality projects.
If we talk about the future of crypto, we do not need maximalism here, right? The discussion is not about have all of your money in Bitcoin and we all pay with Solana and Ethereum. I don't think that this would be the case.
We do not have the same constraints that we have had in the 2021 era. It is not infrastructure anymore, nor is it appetite of capital wanting to flow in. It is now to continue pushing products people actually want.
Is still saying about the things that I can do today is managed by a bank and I don't need decentralization. I mean, yes, for our everyday life in the West, that might be the case. But I think if we look around, we see that the world is changing.
We are so back. How are things going, Juri?
Things are going very well. The prices recovered all across the board, I would say. That's one thing to mention for sure. And other than that, just hanging around. I'm currently in Lisbon. A lot of people are in Lisbon, including our friends from the DeFi Dojo, which is funny. So a lot of cool people here in town in Lisbon for the grand opening for one of the first leading co-working spaces in crypto for Lisbon, which is a project that has been very, very overdue. So yeah, kind of traction and momentum is coming back to town. So yeah, exciting times to be in Lisbon and in crypto again. What about you? How was Singapore? Were you more focused on Formula One or crypto, be honest?
Focus was still a lot on crypto. My dad used to work for Formula One, so I had a little bit of touch points during my childhood, but I haven't followed it along too closely. But the brand over there definitely has gained a lot of traction. There were pop-up shops everywhere with Formula One cars standing around and Formula One merchandise, and the entire city was pretty hyped about it. So Token was really nice. First time in Singapore for me, first time at Token. Overall, I mean, the main event is always one thing that most people don't even join. I didn't join it either. I just got a quick sneak peek into it by walking by the Marina Bay Sands. There were tons, like literal tons of Asia-focused projects, which you have never heard about in the West, which seem to have a bunch of money for insane sponsorships, side events, parties, etc. I don't know to what extent they actually gained any traction or not, because in Europe or the US and in the West in general, it seems like there's still like a bunch of shady, weird, kind of awkward projects around in crypto, but they're usually poor. And in Asia, for some reason, they seem to be able to still attract a lot of money. But yeah, I mean, where do I start? So I don't think that there was one singular leading theme of the conference that popped up in every single conversation.
Stablecoins? Really? Stablecoins? Not even stablecoins?
Not really. I mean, stablecoins were sort of involved in every conversation. They're now accepted as kind of a base denominator of whatever you do on chain and on centralized exchanges. But there was very little talk about where are new use cases for stablecoins here, etc. It was more about, okay, we talk about the use cases themselves and the mechanics behind them, and we just by default assume that it's mostly geared around the stablecoin on-chain economy, which I think is a healthy development because, I mean, the dollar dominance is there anyway. Like, there's no point in explicitly mentioning that over and over and over again. And I liked the framing of most things that were debated, that were announced, that were presented. It was much less about, oh, we have such a novel mechanism that is only possible on the blockchain, blah, blah. And it's just, okay, this is how it works in the traditional financial rails. That's how we can do it on blockchain. This is the specific advantage that we can exploit, or like the cost reduction that we can provide. Much more sober, way less abstract, much more concrete than previous conferences. So yeah, overall, my impression was very positive, very bullish on the industry as a whole. It's pretty funny that we bottomed out right when everybody was traveling to Singapore. So nobody was at their laptops able to press the sell button. And then it's always kind of weird how these crypto conference weeks are usually the days where you are the furthest away from keeping up what is happening on the breaking news side of things in the industry, unless it's obviously something that gets announced at the conference itself. But other than that, I checked prices way less than I did the weeks and months before. I checked my Discord, Telegram way less than the weeks and months before. So I was kind of surprised to see this really impressive run up over the last couple of days, even hitting an all-time high of $125,000 on Sunday. And I mean, we can dive into a few more specific topics and takeaways I have from the conference, but what was your impression from the outside? Was there a lot of chatter about token on crypto Twitter? Any people commenting on it?
Yes, there was a lot of traction. So first off, a lot of people said that this has been once again the best conference of the year. I heard just very, very good stuff from Token. Also, it seems like that there were like less fishy participants compared to, let's say, 2021 or 2022, when the crypto mania was super, super serious. So yeah, it looked like a super nice conference week. I need to agree that I had a little bit of FOMO as well. Plus, what I have seen a lot is like, if I zoom out, what would have been the two takeaways from me? Like if you would have asked me from the outside, what was Token 2049 all about? It seemed like it's hyperliquid and stablecoins. That's what it seemed like, and obviously the never-ending story about DATs.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I had a single conversation that was focused on DATs. It might have come up, but I don't think that they gained a lot of attention. I mean, everybody is aware of them. It's kind of accepted as a relevant market participant now, but there wasn't much talk about, okay, we need innovation in the DAT space, or this or that is gonna succeed over others. Maybe at the main event there was a little bit of DAT talk, because if I remember correctly, quite a few of the people leading the DATs were there for panels. I think Tom Lee was there, Kyle Samani probably as well, who's heading the Sol DAT. By the way, Sol has had a really impressive recovery over the past couple of days, which is kind of interesting to see, because right now it seems like all the trench attention has shifted away from Solana over to BNB chain, with the rise of Aster DEX, and kind of a BNB trench is heating up. So interesting how the Sol ecosystem is going to develop. But yeah, I think the main narratives that I've witnessed over the conference were, yes, like stablecoins were sort of tangentially involved in every single conversation, but very little explicit talk about. If at all, we talked about Plasma with all the other DeFi folks, and in the context of DeFi farming in general. Lots of talks about on-chain vaults. It really seems as if everybody wants to either launch vaults or is participating in some sort of vault infrastructure. Tons of people from MEV Capital around, RE7 Capital, like all of these vault curators, Tau Labs. I got to meet a bunch of really amazing DeFi farmers and on-chain participants. So that space really seems to be heating up. I think if we continue on the current trajectory, while people are looking to get a little more of a TradFi angle into these vaults, they are still mostly on-chain centric, because most of the juicy yields, at least the way you can raise without a lot of regulation, the way you can advertise your products without a lot of regulation, it's still like very on-chain native, and there is cross collateralization of things building up. I've mentioned that in a few roundtables in the past, but if you look at a lot of the Ethena Pendle based ecosystem, and then these applications being built on top of that, and then vaults kind of investing into these base assets, and then you have a vault receipt token, which you can then kind of collateralize again, borrow against that to use these funds to sell into some more of these base assets. Like there's a plethora of ways you can loop your way around the entire ecosystem of DeFi right now. And just to get that very clear, there is no under collateralization of these applications and these providers and investment products, but a lot of cross collateralizations. If we ever get to a huge liquidation cascade or an unlikely but not impossible DPEG of any of the leading stablecoins, either USDC, USDT, but also SUSD or Ethena one, then you could see a big unwinding of all of these things. I'm not going to say that like DeFi would collapse. I don't think it would, because again, most of these things are over collateralized. There is no reason why it would fail as a system. It has proven over and over again that DeFi out of all the crypto infrastructure is the most resilient in actually executing unlevering and liquidations if they have to happen. We've seen that during COVID, and we've also seen that during the FTX collapse. But just to be aware, I don't think that these very nice stablecoin returns are coming without any corresponding risks. So that's on the stablecoin farming side. On the perspective of crypto credit cards, payment providers, and neobanks, I think that was another leading topic. I think Mentals, so that is kind of Bybit's L2 and sort of BNB chain equivalent, they just announced that they are going to implement a neobank. When probably a card too, if I remember correctly. Plasma has the Plasma One with waiting list. There were a bunch of like crypto native neobanks spinning up that were mostly Asia focused, but a ton of stuff is happening in that space. In terms of usability of crypto, we have now reached a point that we could only have dreamed of in the past cycle. So I think fundamentally this is a very bullish development, and I'm pretty happy to see that we are finally able to integrate our industry and these assets into everyday life a little more, much more than we've been able to do before. So I think overall we've seen a lot of trends that point towards maturation and just a actual progress in the space. There's still, like, don't get me wrong, still a bunch of BS flying around, and we are far from getting rid of that, but focus seems to be on things that actually improve the financial rails of today and tomorrow. And I think that's a incredibly healthy development.
Amazing. No, that's this is really lovely to hear. And I mean, I think there will never ever be the status where we think like, oh, we cleaned the entire shop. Now that's crypto, and now there's no work to be done anymore. There will always be new issues that the industry needs to solve. I mean, even finance today, after centuries of developing it, there's still so much negativity or like negative products also going around. So from that perspective, we also need to, I think, like change the perspective and adjust our expectations a little bit. I just hope that, and I mean, this sounds a little bit weird from a person who's like working for a validator, like these random chains that launch and die, or like basically the longevity of a lot of chains. I think this really needs to change, because if we don't get rid of that, then the industry will always have the stigma of being super, super unsustainable. So I just hope that, I mean, no financial advice, but I don't think that this cycle will go on for a super long time anymore.
Yeah, fully agree.
And maybe we can shift to what's next from here. But I would say I can still imagine that everyone is like still optimistic at DevConnect in Argentina, which is beginning mid of November, and then sliding into December, which will be a little bit more bearish, and then we slowly go out of this cycle. That's like at least my perception. And if I would have a free wish for the upcoming years, then I really just hope that we do not undergo the same show that we have previously seen in 2023. In 2023, people just continued as if nothing happened. Random chains raised 100 million, 200 million valuations or something. for chains that were not very useful, that completely missed PMF. Growth, on-chain growth, usability, adaptability was completely ignored. And I just hope that what you just mentioned, the new banks, the basically the usability becomes a much bigger focus. So this is how I see the industry evolving, and then we see like some chains where it takes place. Because let's be honest, we don't need another 50 chains that do nothing. I think if we just focus on more usability, more adaptability beyond meme coin launch pads, I think, yeah, that's already a big task.
Yeah. I think the chain maximalism was nowhere to be seen during token. Maybe with the little exception of
Cardano.
I've never met any real Cardano user. I don't think any of them. Oh, actually, I think Input Output was the main sponsor of token. At least all the people who had a ticket to the main event were running around with like a Input Output logo on it. So it seems like they're still around, but I mean, I haven't heard a single thing about them. In terms of chain maximalism, that's what I liked a lot about token. I think it was actually my first in the name chain agnostic conference, because all the other big ones I was before at were usually ETH centric, either ETHCC or DEF CON or like ETH Denver. And I think it's nice to see that we finally grow up as an industry and don't really care about like stupid chain tribalism anymore. When it comes to actually usable products, people just want to use it. They see the benefits of blockchain as a technology, but nobody cares what chain that they're on. I mean, yeah, of course, if you're an avid Bybit user, you're probably drawn a little more towards the Mantle ecosystem. If you're an Asia-based Binance user, you probably like the BNB ecosystem a little more. Like all of these geographies and user demographics have the ones that they like, the ones that they don't like as much. But if it comes to serious applications that have serious distribution instruments and vehicles, think about Coinbase with a Base app, think about Kraken launching their Ink chain, Plasma with a Plasma One thing, Bybit's Mantle with a UR Neobank, and like everything in that realm, nobody cares about the underlying chain. I think the only remaining chain where people are generally hyped about the ecosystem for the sake of the ecosystem itself is Hyperliquid right now. Obviously, it made a bunch of people very rich, paid off greatly with the airdrop, well-performing ecosystem, but like all the other chains, just for the sake of the chain, tribalism seems to be pretty dead. I have not heard a lot of people talking about Berachain, for example, Avalanche, Sonic, all the other ones. I mean, of course, you have the Solana
I've
meme.
heard there was a big Barrachin party though.
Yeah, it was the after party was sponsored by Berachain. I wish that they had only put 10% of their energy and effort into their chain launch compared to their after party, and I think we'd be trading much higher. But no, I like it. Well, it was a cool party. I think the venue was quite impressive that they ran it out. They did it together with Blowfin, which I think is one of the few remaining like non KYC and like mixed centralized and decentralized exchanges. One of these seemingly Asia-based projects, which just seem to have a ton of money lying around for sponsorships and all kinds of shenanigans. But yeah, that was the only thing I've seen about Berachain during all of these days. Other than that, yeah, like Hyperliquid had a few chain-specific events. Of course, the meme coin space is still Solana-centric, but it's not like people are, oh, I can only use Solana, as you still had it heard a few times 6 months ago, 12 months ago when Solana was heating up again. There was this like very explicit ETH versus Solana rivalry that has come down significantly. And I think that's a very healthy development. So overall, like I'm very satisfied with the trajectory that the industry is currently on. We see interest heating up again. If you look at like all these metrics of private sales being oversubscribed, for example, the yield basis sale, which is another project by Michael Egorov, the Curve founder. I think it was 195 or 200 times subscribed on Legion very recently. That was during Token when they conducted their race. even though they already raised at I think $200 million valuation, which is like not super expensive, but also not super cheap. And like to have that 200 times oversubscribed is quite a clear metric that there is demand to bid quality projects in the space. We've seen the run-up of quite a few tokens that have very good distribution vehicles, Bybit's MNT, for example. Also, Binance's BNB, it's just on a infinite tear upwards. I think it's at $1,200 or $1,300 right now. It's just like, it's insane. This thing has almost doubled over the past few weeks, and which is not a small thing to do for a token of this size. I think it even flipped back XRP in market,
Yes, number 3.
which yeah. So yeah, finally XRP is down again. I think what would be an interesting pair trade to put on over the next couple of weeks and months would be to short XRP against either a basket, like depending on how diversified you want to be, of up and coming kind of neobank payment and stablecoin chains and tokens. So you could long Plasma against that. Maybe you could also integrate Bybit's MNT. I think there are a few very low cap applications on base app that want to do like on ramp, off ramp stuff and compete a little bit in the neobank space. You could even throw EtherFi into the mix with their credit card, even though it's already trading at like a pretty decently high market cap. But yeah, I think that's one of these verticals of the crypto industry that is going to grow a lot over the next couple of months. And that is, if the incentives are right and they are able to figure out a sustainable model that doesn't require constant token emissions, which would result in like downward sell pressure, at least when the cycle has sort of peaked. And I fully agree with you that the cycle is very likely going to peak in the next couple of months. If they manage to find out a sustainable way to keep these things flourishing, I think that will create a new and a lasting user base for the industry for the first time ever since 2021, when we had a large retail influx, which would be quite nice to see.
Yes. Yeah, but I don't think that we will see like still much more retail entering the space just because the attention is somewhere completely else. I think it's in the AI space. Like I literally currently have high school friends talking to me and say, hey, I am building this AI product on the side. I'm trying to make a living of AI, whatever. So this is the new matter. And I don't think that crypto is currently strong enough to say, you know what, look at AI. Yeah, that's super exciting, whatever. But have a look at crypto. I don't think that crypto's matter is strong enough for that because, yeah, okay, there's a Bitcoin ETF. A lot of people, let's not forget, that do not even know what an ETF is or an index. So besides then, oh yeah, some neobanks are building an L2. You know how bullish this is? And then a lot of those folks will say, what is a neobank and what's an L2? But they understand what ChatGPT is all about. And I think that's the reason why I don't think we will see any retail or like masses of retail entering the space anytime soon. One, because they burned their fingers in 2021 significantly, so there has to be a very strong reason for them to return. I think it has been kind of a miracle to see so many people returning for meme coins, actually. Yeah, and I also think that that these has been also like a lot of seasoned crypto users, a lot of usage there, to be quite fair. But yeah, long story short, I don't think that the attention for crypto right now is strong enough to get more people in, like complete newcomers. I think this will be a very uphill battle.
Not sure if it will outperform AI in terms of gathering mindshare and attention. I very much see your point there. Like all the people who wanted to become crypto traders.
Also, just one thing, AI will be bigger than crypto. I think it's also not a hot thesis.
Yeah, I think it's hard to come up with a specific way to measure it, but I definitely agree on the underlying thesis. Like in terms of actively influencing our day-to-day lives and shaping our media consumption, etc., our work lives, AI will be much more impactful. In terms of incentive coordination, I think crypto could almost compete on par with AI. It depends on how relevant AI will be shaping our actual behavior and our way of thinking, rather than just being a tooling for whatever, getting our work done more effectively. But I overall agree with the thesis. In terms of retail flocking into either or of these verticals, it seems like all the people who would have tried to become crypto perpetrators in 2021 are now trying to build like some sort of GPT wrapper or AI B2B software as a service, whatever stuff. I think most of this thing is going to be completely short-lived. It's very hard to build a moat out in that industry right now, and most of these things will fail. I still don't think that crypto and just the speculation economy is dead, because while both crypto and AI are competing for the same total pool of attention, they still serve different desires and like different needs that people have. I mean, on the one hand, all the payment stuff is not going to be addressed by AI. Quite the opposite. It's rather going to be solved by crypto, and AI is likely going to be a major user of these solutions. I mean, if we think the AI agent economy forward a little bit, these agents will likely transact on crypto rails, because that's the easiest way to automate payments and make payments condition based. Then the whole need to escape the middle class or lower middle class, gamble your way towards wealth in the few years after graduating high school and graduating college, AI is not going to completely replace that. If you want to build your own product, then yes, you'll likely want to build some stuff in the AI space. If you just want to speculate, if you just want to gamble, crypto is still the way to go. Prediction markets are likely going to be the way to go. Just a few minutes ago, I've seen some posts on the timeline that New York Stock Exchange is allegedly investing $2 billion into Polymarket. I think at a $9 or $10 billion valuation post money, which is insane. I mean, it's crazy to see how prediction markets have risen up. Actually, I think that is, out of all the trends that we've seen in crypto, probably the one that has nailed to get mainstream relevance without shoving everybody's throat down 24/7, that it is built on crypto stuff. Like, it's just a back-end feature of Polymarket and most of the other prediction markets, but most people use it for the sake of stuff they can bet on and as a replacement almost for legacy media. And I think like that's an incredible step forward, and like big congrats to the Polymarket team.
Yeah, look at this. Fresh from Wall Street. Crazy
I
to
would have
think.
not seen that coming even a year ago. Like when I was very active on prediction markets betting on the 2024 election in the US, I would not have thought that they are going to get integrated into major financial rails that quickly. So quite excited to see that.
Yeah, no, I mean, 100% agree. Congrats, big kudos to the Polymarket team. Yeah, it's really crazy how fast the Polymarket also took off, to be very honest. But yeah, I think the future of crypto, let's maybe move on with that, and also ask ourselves where we are going to in the mid/long term is obviously finance. Everything that one can do with the bank or whatever will probably have blockchain in the back end at some point, just because on-chain money movement is super effective. And I talk to a lot of people and they're still saying, but the things that I can do today is managed by a bank and I don't need decentralization. I mean, yes, for our everyday life in the West, that might be the case. But I think if we look around, we see that the world is changing, and democracies are, I would say, a little bit more on the decline than on the increase if we look around. And decentralization is just to make sure, in my view, that certain truths are secured. So if I own something and I really want to leave the country, then I'm very happy to have some Bitcoin lying around. If there's like a situation, a scenario where I need to leave Europe and leave everything behind me, in that scenario, then the question is how much worth has, for example, Bitcoin to you? Because okay, I can start a new living in, I don't know, Argentina or in the US or in Australia or wherever the fuck you want, because okay, I still have access to the internet, and this is how I can, this is where the money of the decentralization lies. And I think this is like the direction that we will see. And there are already dozens of countries that would gladly use the technology. So obviously countries like Argentina, Turkey, and so on, where people have an interest to not storing their wealth in the local currency, but in international currencies. If you are a Turk and you want to save money, you prefer saving your money in the USD or in the euro and not the lira. But the bank in Turkey won't give you euros. You can't save euros in Turkey. Or you say, okay, I want to buy some tokenized stocks or whatever, without fearing that the government is taking it away from me. So there is already like a big pool of people. I just wanted to stress that because I had a discussion about that on the weekend. Yes, in our Western world, there might not be the urgency to do that, but let's zoom out and put ourselves into a different scenario, or let's assume that the world changes rapidly, which has happened throughout the past couple of months and years. So yeah, just wanted to throw that out here.
No. I mean, that's been the base case for crypto mass adoption, not necessarily in capital inflows, but in the absolute amount of users for the past 4 to 5 years. And I think now we are finally getting to a stage where it is again becoming more interesting for the people who are already, at least on paper, well off and protected in their private property rights in the West, because now the technology is at a stage that there are some solutions available which are genuinely better and which will improve your experience. But yeah, I overall agree. Like, I have a very, very similar outlook that I definitely want to be hedged in terms of, yeah, uncensorable private property and store of value. So like, yeah, I would say that I hold the very vast majority of everything I own in on chain. So yeah, like,
Yeah.
come and take.
No, it's also I think that's also like for if we talk about the future of crypto, we do not need maximalism here, right? The discussion is not about have all of your money in Bitcoin and we all pay with Solana and Ethereum. I don't think that this will be the case. I think it will be a mix. It's like a portfolio, similar to, I think the next generation will save money in ETFs, in cash, in real estate, but also it's like a small part in Bitcoin. We're talking about 2 to 3% or even a little bit less. Like Bitcoin is becoming kind of the new gold. So I think this is where the future is heading. I think a little bit less exciting than a lot of our cypherpunks in the community have imagined it a few years ago. I don't think that we will have a Bitcoin standard in other states. At least not in the foreseeable future, but that's just my personal take on that. But yeah, I think we're slowly moving towards a direction where we see everything like maturing, and then we see where we come out. But I think we're on the right path, and yeah, let's see what happens next. I just hope that we, as an industry, also focus a little bit more on distribution, growth, and sustainability, and this is how we going to win throughout the upcoming bear market, which is, in my view, imminent. Leading to my question. What's your prediction for the next couple of months? Because I'm a little bit nervous. Like, not nervous, but I'm about to pull the trigger with my positions. It's not far away anymore. Not now, but I have my finger on the trigger.
Time-wise, obviously, much, much closer to the end than to the beginning. Price-wise, at least for BTC, we are too. I think ETH, I'd be surprised if it doubles from here. I think it will peak out somewhere between 6,900 and like 8,000. So I would try to front run 6,900 a little bit. Solana 420 coded still. I would again like also front run that a little bit. So everything above 400, I'd start taking chips off the table. BTC, again, like we discussed all the price targets a few weeks ago. I don't think that any of that has significantly changed. I don't see any reason why you would suddenly adjust these targets. Obviously, you have new information in the market that could invite you to kind of reassess and rethink some of these outlooks, but I have not seen anything where I would say, yes, this is going to prime us for the absolute super cycle and will kind of eliminate the cyclicality of this industry going forward. Obviously, if we just creep up like $500 to 1K a day continuously on Bitcoin without ever seeing any 2 weeks of exponential price action upwards, if we just continue what we've done over the past years with alts dragging along occasionally, then giving back most of our gains over 2 to 3 months, and then the whole playbook repeating, of course the cycle can extend. As it looks right now, if you look at sentiment right now, and ever since it kind of flipped around again on the weekend when we broke all-time highs on BTC briefly, it does seem like we are now primed for the final phase of Q4 upwards action, and then probably a little bit of a cool down of 6 to 12 months, at least for BTC. Less so opinionated about alts. I could see a lot of alts completely dying out. On the other hand, the ones that have functioning businesses, think about Hyperliquid or those that have outstanding distribution vehicles, think about MNT, BNB, and like many of the DeFi primitives that are getting used in almost every DeFi application, in almost every DeFi portfolio and vault. Think about Ethena, Pendle, Aave. Like that stuff is not going to go away over the next 1 to 2 years. And I would be very surprised if it just completely dies down over the, let's say, 12 to 18 months of bear market price action once we reach the peak. In terms of other alts, like think L2 tokens, some alt L1s, I don't really see a future there. They completely fail to differentiate themselves. Obviously, some of these things have insanely large treasuries and foundations, so they are going to be able to keep the party running for a little longer. I don't really see a path for them competing with ETH, with Solana, with Hyperliquid. I'm rather unopinionated about the new L1s like Sui and Aptos. Obviously, they're both trading at very significant valuations, especially Sui, and they do have a pretty big treasury. I mean, you're much deeper in the Sui ecosystem than I have, but in terms of people actually using the applications on there, and for Aptos the same, I think that compared between the two, Sui is probably in a little better position in terms of user adoption, but I don't see anything that would justify these things to trade at a multi-billion valuation going forward, unless they are able to attract one subsector of crypto that is completely unique to that chain that can only be built on there. Every trend that we are seeing right now in terms of stuff that you can use for everyday life that is generally going to improve your experience of payments, credit cards, on-chain perp trading, whatever, is pretty chain agnostic. You have perp dexes on every chain. Of course, some are better, some are worse than others. You have a neobank on a handful of chains. Like everything that is not ETH mainnet is going to be like, pretty suitable for that, because like we have an abundance of block space right now. We do not have the same constraints that we have had in the 2021 era, which I'm pretty glad to see. And I think the bottleneck, or like the limiting factor of our industry right now, it is not infrastructure anymore, nor is it appetite of capital wanting to flow in. It is now to continue pushing products people actually want. And in order to do that, I don't think we need to 10x developers. I mean, of course, like some developers from Web 2 can just pivot into Web 3 without like, but we don't need to 10x the total supply. I don't think we need to 10x the supply of like marketers or growth people. We just, but the bottleneck when it comes down to what prevents us from building more good products in crypto, it is operational excellence and execution. I still think that, and you see that times and times again, most crypto companies are run worse than high school projects that we did in 8th grade, 9th grade, in terms of accountability, in terms of operational excellence, in terms of having procedures in place. Obviously, we are dealing with much more complex challenges here than we did in 8th grade and 9th grade. But sometimes I wonder, like, why do so many people in crypto have the management capabilities of a person in kindergarten? If we were able to get our stuff together a little bit more, we would be so much more effective in competing with TradFi folks. And now in Singapore, we've seen that the TradFi people, they are willing to take a leap into crypto. Jump Crypto is back exploring on-chain stuff, and they exited kind of their crypto arm in late 2022. They still did like some like either like centralized exchange market making or like OTC stuff, but they sunsetted very significant parts of their crypto business. They are back now. I met tons of people who are primarily involved in like some TradFi infrastructure, whatever fund thing. All of them are interested in crypto. There's a bunch of stuff and projects trying to onboard off-ramp TradFi capital into on-chain rails. So now the time has come for our industry to build and to shine. And like, it is up to us. We don't have any regulatory hurdles anymore. Nobody's making our life excessively difficult. I mean, of course, there are burdens, there are limiting factors, especially if you don't look at the US, but if you look at Europe instead, like regulation still sucks there and is like annoying all of these people you have to deal with. But like as an industry as a whole, there is nothing we can shift the blame to other than ourselves.
Yeah.
At least for the next couple of months. If all of macro crashes, capital gets super scared, everything in terms of liquidity dries up, yeah, of course, then like we will also be affected by that, and we will not be able to stay unwithered by that development because like we are at the forefront of the risk frontier. No matter how good the products are, no matter how well the teams execute, crypto will go down in a case like that temporarily. Everything as is, it seems like we're ripe for like a golden time of industry acceleration. We just have to do it. We just have to grab the opportunity.
Yeah. No, I think also what's super important to stress here is that crypto also, like, even if capital completely dries out, yes, but I mean, has been so much capital in crypto for so long, so much capital, like it was like a huge liquidity rush that entered the industry. And I think then it's also fair to say that the industry is able to survive a couple of more years. Like if you look at if you go through the sheets of the biggest folks in the industry, they have still some runway. They might have to offboard a couple of folks, etc., etc. But I'm not worried that crypto will run out of money from one day to another, no matter what happens.
I think the one existential or pseudo-existential risk that we are dealing with is that, yes, crypto as technology and infrastructure, it will not die out. Quite the opposite. I think we both are very confident in that. What could happen, though, if crypto has another cycle of events that will severely harm our reputation, that will burn a bunch of retail people, then all the technology and all the value premium you can capture off of that technology will just flow into traditional finance players and fintech players who are able to utilize crypto infrastructure. Think Robinhood, like all of the neo brokers, Revolut will probably sooner or later explore the stable coin and like on-chain banking stuff. And I mean, centralized exchanges might be the most crypto adjacent player that would survive in that case. But even their core business of trading fees and like capturing fees off of volume would be hurt significantly if the interest in crypto native asset dies down or at least stagnates over time. So like there is still a risk that the industry as we know it, as kind of a pure play of an asset class, will decrease. Obviously, except for Bitcoin, I think that will be like one of these very standalone outlier assets going forward for the next couple of decades, if not centuries. I mean, it doesn't make sense to to look that far out in time, but all the more infrastructure-ish and commodity-ish plays, even Ethereum and Solana, most of the value capture might just be absorbed into TradFi if we fail to get serious as an industry. So I think there are remaining risks, but overall, like, token made me very optimistic on everything going forward. But yeah, closing
yeah,
the conference chapter. I know you're heading over to
exactly.
Argentina in a few weeks. So what are your expectations? What are your hopes for DEF CON?
I've heard that there's a restaurant where you can find the best steaks in the world.
Primary objective
Yeah,
achieved.
yeah,
We
and
top and
big booty Latinas.
4 minutes of bear market. Hmm?
Yeah, big booty Latinas.
Yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah. No, I'm
Will
just
you
joking.
make a stop in Colombia too, or just
No,
Argentina?
no, 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 no.
Just
Yeah,
in and
bad
out.
joke. Bad joke. I'm sorry. No, and
Yeah, feel ashamed.
yeah, I'm really ashamed. No, but yeah, Staking Summit is taking place. Very much looking forward to Staking Summit. Yeah, Staking Summit, my favorite conference in crypto. So looking forward to that and meet all of the operators and yeah, a lot of other guys. Then Cosmos will actually host a conference. So I'm also attending that one by our friend Sebastian from Intel Ventures. So yeah, I learned that there's a conference going to take place, and yeah, I'm super excited to go there and just check out the vibe and see what's going on there, if there's anything new. I'm just like
Oh, is that
curious.
the like InterOps Summit or something? The one that he also hosted in Brussels last year?
I think a landing page is yet to be seen from what I've heard, but I'm not sure if he is just the organizer or if this will be the same brand. I'm not sure about that, but there will be a Cosmos event organized by him. So very much looking forward to
Or
this
did you,
one.
on the note of Cosmos, did you see the whole Atom 1 and Cosmos thing play out over the last few days?
Yeah, like, what can I say, Max? It's other ecosystems, evolve on board new banks, and the Cosmos ecosystem still has a toxic co-founder that dumps his Atom into Atom 1. And yeah, what can I say?
Yeah.
Make
So
Atom great
basically,
again.
the TLDR for the people who are no longer involved in that ecosystem. And I mean, first of all, like, congrats to all of these people. You're saving yourself from a lot of annoyances. I mean, I'm not active in it anymore, but I have a few friends who are still, whose roots trace back to Cosmos and like who occasionally share the news and developments of it. And what happened is that Jay Kwon, who was the kind of former phased out co-founder of Atom and the Cosmos Hub, he obviously still had a pretty decent stash of Atom tokens. And I don't know what the original trigger was, but I think there was like 2 years or 3 years ago some proposal that would have introduced a VM or like a smart contract capability on top of the Cosmos Hub chain. And one of the co-founders was for that, one was against that, and then like Jay Kwon started to fork the Cosmos Hub chain into Atom 1. And apparently, I don't know what triggered that move, but apparently he dumped all of his Atom tokens and bought Atom 1 in an attempt to flip the market cap of the original Atom. He definitely succeeded in flipping the price. I think that it peaked out at around of 1.5 billion market cap, and the original Atom is still sitting at like 1.9 billion ish. I don't know why. Yeah, even the original one is still trading at a market cap like that, but obviously you can ask that question about a ton of crypto tokens. But yeah, that's just, I mean, I think it just confirms like what you just said. Some ecosystems are severely, like seriously competing with Binance. Other ones are launching neobanks and attract 10 billion in stablecoin TVL 1 week after launch, like Plasma. Others are like engaging in some whatever BS. So yeah, I think like this ecosystem is more dead than actually being dead.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, we will see. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, like, this is like something that I'm actually very much looking forward to see. Okay, what's going to happen there? Maybe there's like something we can do to turn the ship a little bit around. Let's see. But yeah, that's the two things I'm very excited about. Then to see obviously what's happening on the Sui front, Solana front, and yeah, meeting a lot of partners and friends, and yeah, I think Celestia is also doing something. So yeah, let's see. Very yeah, I'm just excited about Argentina, also to see how crypto is evolving there and how it is these days. Because yeah, I think there's a lot of traction, as you know,
Uh, I
in
think we're
Argentina right now.
yeah we're up for some good weeks and months. I think it makes sense to strap in and pay attention. Don't round trip everything if you're still strongly exposed, and I hope that you're still strongly exposed to this industry, because like the asymmetric upside still exists. It obviously is much harder to find, and a lot of DeFi people who I met and talked to during Token Day were all in agreement that the on-chain farming and the general like capturing upside landscape has become exponentially more difficult. Much more sophisticated actors entering the space, especially if we see all the big TradFi players starting to get interested in crypto again, and not only get interested, but also starting deploying and actively trading in our industry. I think that will then finally confirm that cycles are sort of dead, sort of over, and yeah, the mechanics and yields expectations will shift by a significant margin once that happens. But until then, it's up only. Welcome to Uptober, and hopefully for a very bullish rest of Q4. Do you
Yeah,
have any last words?
yeah, October's in. Let's see if history repeats itself, I would say. Yeah, let's see. I mean,
Oh
it
yeah,
would.
by the way, I think one thing I wanted to share, just as a like last takeaway from Token, out of all the things you can farm, it seems pretty much everybody I met is bullish on stream finance. Lighter, the perp dex has seen like some incredible valuation expectations, upwards of like 5 billion at TGE, which I think if that happens, it could kind of pull a second hyperliquid, like very much up to see what is going to happen there. All the other perp dexes like Pacifica, people still want to farm. Infinify, people want to farm. Extended, that is one perp dex on Starknet actually. I don't know why they chose the chain, but yeah, people are pretty bullish on it in terms of just the marginal value of points you get there by the volume you push through. Aster seems to be a bit overfarmed, but yeah, I think that's for the people active on chain. That's the last kind of nugget I was able to pick up from the conference.
Amazing. Yeah, thanks so much for the insights into Token so that I could stay here in Europe. But yeah, I'll let you know how Argentina was. Thanks, Max, for having me on, as always.
When are you gonna be there?
November 11th. So
Oh,
in
nice.
around about 4 weeks.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of excitement coming up for Argentina.
Oh, yeah, I'm so much looking forward to it. You can't imagine. You can't
Very
imagine. I'm
nice.
so much looking forward to it.
All right, Juri, was great catching up, and see you next week.
See you next week, sir. Bye bye.
Bye.